communicated, we've made a number of very important decisions over the past years about taking this issue seriously.
This is different?
Yes, we also have a public inquiry underway, and that will continue.
So are you going to wait for the inquiry until next steps, or will the Liberal Party conduct a review based on what your own caucus colleagues in this NSICOP report put forward?
The government takes, of course, very seriously this issue. Minister LeBlanc speaks for the government on this issue, but I would challenge anyone to, around the world, and this is a problem we know that is occurring around the world, to see a government that has dealt with this issue as robustly as this one.
But I'm confused, there's no clarity on what the next step is. The report, based on thousands of documents, says that there are MPs, parliamentarians, knowingly colluding or collaborating with other governments.
Yeah, and Canadians should be very reassured that there are checks and measures taken daily. Well, we have a very robust, of course, begins with a very robust intelligence gathering apparatus. And right up to today, where we're going to be talking about C-70, a brand new act.
But the question is,
what happens now?
Came out. I was just reading it for the first time last night. Obviously, there are areas that are heavily redacted, and we need accountability. If there are people who have wittingly cooperated with foreign powers, there absolutely has to be accountability, and in some cases, we'll see where that goes.
But are you not worried that people are sort of looking to their left and right through the House of Commons right now, going, who are these people?
Not particularly, no. Because we're at the beginnings of this, and for me at least, I just read the report for the first time last night, and there's a proper process and there's got to be a due process for individuals. All I've read is that witting and unwitting, and it's entirely redacted. I don't know who these members are. I don't know what the detailed allegations are. And I think, in fairness, we need serious accountability if someone has actively cooperated with a foreign state. There's got to be due process associated with that.
What does that look like?
Yes, if someone has actively cooperated, so I forget, it was around paragraph 55 to 58 or so, but at one point they said, and in one instance there was a then member of parliament who had a relationship with a foreign agent. Yeah, that person should be named in the shorter term, and fuller allegations should be laid out, and we should have proper due process on that.
Going back to the names of the MPs that have wittingly,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you think, just to be clear, that they should be named, even though they have not been, or as far as we know, been accused of anything, of any wrongdoing? Should the Prime Minister, who has seen those names, give them?
Give them without any other details or without any due process? No. I think if there may be different circumstances. The example I gave was that one instance where there was a specific relationship between a then MP and a foreign agent. That particular case, which the committee noted was of great concern, it strikes me that that particular case, where there are some more details attached to it, there should be accountability where the member's named and full details are divulged, and there's a proper process for it. In the shorter term than the longer term, for sure, yeah. I mean, I just read the report for the first time last night.
Who should name them?
The committee should not name them. No, it should be, if charges are to proceed or there's going to be a proper proceeding in some way, I think there should be due process in that way. I do worry about, in that particular case, it seems damning from what I've read, even though it's heavily redacted. In other cases, we just saw wittingly or unwittingly. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the details are. And if we're to have a serious conversation, it should be less of a witch hunt. It should be more serious due process where there's proper accountability.
Should the Liberal Party be looking into this on its own? Because even the NSICOP report says that it might not lead to charges. So if there are no charges, should the Liberal Party start its own process to look into this in case one of the MPs or senators, well, you have no senators, but one of the MPs mentioned is a Liberal?
If anyone on the Liberal side has wittingly cooperated with foreign power, if there aren't to be public charges in some way, our own party should take that with the greatest seriousness. And based on the comments I've seen, the discussions I've had, I trust that they are going to take it seriously.
What about nominations? Do you think the party's nomination process should change? There was a fair amount of criticism of that in the NSICOP report.
So I have said publicly before, and I'll say it again, and I know we're going to have conclusions and recommendations from the Foreign Interference Commission, but we should have parties that set rules of the game for their nominations, but Elections Canada should enforce those rules, because that is an area that I've lived through nominations, and I do think they're the least protected areas of our democracy, and Elections Canada should be part of enforcing those rules and operating those nomination contests.
You're about to head into caucus. You're going to hear confidential information. information. The NSICOP report says that there are MPs, they don't say which party, but who share confidential information with the Indian government. Does that alarm you? Does that mean caucus will be difficult to make work?
I don't think so, because the party itself will be aware of the names. The Prime Minister will be aware of those names, and they will be managing this with diligence, and I have confidence in that leadership and ensuring that that is a safe space.
How confident are you that the Liberals will get the Toronto St. Paul's by-election?
Very confident.
Yeah.
I'm also confident we'll win Beaches East York, even though I'm not running.
We have, for Canadians and for parliamentarians, we have painted a picture of the lay of the land when it comes to foreign interference in the country. We have made a number of prescriptions to remedy the situation, recommendations to improve the situation. We have evaluated the government's performance over the last several years. That was the central thrust of what the review is. Now, you have to understand, and Canadians have to understand, that the members of the committee are bound by the Security of Information Act. The members of the committee waived their parliamentary privilege for the privilege to sit on this committee. That means if they inadvertently reveal information, they can be prosecuted. The members of the committee have spoken to and through the review, as we always do with every subject that we undertake. Anything that we can say about these issues is in the review. We cannot add any more. Every word, every sentence, every paragraph has been through a very significant and detailed redaction process. It is one that takes time. Right now, the membership of the committee, and as its chair, the committee is not permitted to expand on the language in the review.
You seem to say just now that at this current time we're bound by the rules. You can't release any more information, including the names of the MPs involved. Under what circumstances could those names be revealed, and does the public not deserve to know?
The members of the committee are bound to this Security of Information Act for the rest of their lives.
So the names will never come out?
We can't listen. The question of whether or not this issue is followed up on is a question rightly put to the RCMP. And it is up to the RCMP to decide on the basis of any intelligence or evidence they may have in their possession whether they're going to take steps or not. I'm not in a position to comment for what the RCMP will or will not do.
How do you think the report reflects on parliamentarians, though, when individuals are not named? Does it cast aspersions about members of parliament?
I haven't looked at that question, and the committee hasn't examined that question. We did our job. Look, it's important to remember, the committee is not an intelligence collector. The committee is not an intelligence assessor. The committee receives intelligence from our intelligence collectors and assessors, and it relies on that information, on that intelligence. And it deliberates, it goes through it with a fine-tooth comb, it crafts what it wants to say, and then it is subject to a very arduous redaction process under very objective terms, set out in the law that creates the committee. So we've gone as far as we possibly can. We cannot add anything to what's actually in the written text.
Are you concerned?
Safety Minister casting a bit of a shadow of a doubt over your findings, saying, look, intelligence is not evidence.
I think the committee would say it was pleased to see the government responding so quickly. I think it indicates that they're taking this very seriously, as they should.
Are you concerned that there are members of your caucus that are still sitting in the House of Commons who may have been involved? You sit as a member of this.
I'm more concerned about the fact that now the government has to move forward on this.
And the Prime Minister is just playing whack-a-mole.
Forward a budget that gives so much help to Canadians, the Conservatives don't even have any questions on it.
We've called out some delays in the text of the review's text. It's important for the government to take the next steps. We're encouraged by Bill C-70, as we say. Many of the recommendations we put out find their way in Bill C-70, including a foreign agents registry. We're catching up to the Australians, the Americans, and the Brits. We're calling for criminal code provisions to deal with foreign interference in nominations. We're asking for nominations and leadership races to possibly be brought under the aegis and auspices of Elections Canada. There are many very positive things that can happen quickly to tighten all of this up for Canadians.
In our midst, and they're not saying who those people are. Doesn't that cast aspersions over every MP?
Look, again, the committee's hands are tied. We can only release what we can release. And what we can, look, the committee, since it was founded 7.5 years ago, the members have always tended to want to be more transparent rather than less. We have gone as far as we can in this review to reveal information without being in breach of the Security of Information Act. That's as much as
Au-delà des noms, je comprends,
Taking this seriously, if they
Sorry?
say that, how is the government taking this seriously? If they won't even acknowledge the allegations that were in the report, and they're saying that the NSICOP report is problematic,
the government's.
how is that taken seriously?
You'll have to ask the government. We are encouraged with Bill C-70. We think this is a very positive step forward. And we're also encouraged with the fact that Minister LeBlanc last week has reached out to all members of Parliament, asking them to consider getting briefed by the Sergeant-at-Arms in terms of what foreign interference is. There's a distinction between foreign influence and foreign interference. All this is set out in the review. What I would encourage people to do is to read the report, cover to cover.
Can you ensure Canadian voters? Who even knows the names of those?
Pardon me?
Who gets to see?
I'm not in a position to answer that question.
Can you assure Canadian voters that none of these MPs will come before them as candidates in the next election?
Not in a position to answer that question.
As a liberal, are you comfortable having that your party launches an internal review?
I don't know anything about that.
But no, I'm wondering, as a Liberal MP, do
Yes.
you hope your party takes measures or launches an internal review? Because even your own report says this might not lead to charges. So should the parties be taking more action to try and figure out who these possible MPs may be to make sure that they're not...
Yeah, what the review actually says is that this may not lead to charges because of the problem we have in Canada with the intelligence to evidence gap. It's very difficult to get intelligence in a courtroom, in the broad daylight of a courtroom, because, of course, this speaks to the protection of sources and methods. Not only sources and methods exercised by Canadian intelligence collectors and assessors, but perhaps even our five partners.
the bill that's currently being
We think it's an
studied.
encouraging start.
But does it resolve that issue?
We think it's an encouraging start.
But it's not enough. That's what.
But there's more. Look, this is a very big issue for intelligence law enforcement folks who have been asking for some improvement in this area. It is not an easy issue to overcome, but I think
But should we take our time?
the committee believes the government is taking this seriously.
But si vous dites que tout est dans...
That I have from the NDP on this particular concurrence motion. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Question and commentaire. The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank our honourable colleague. He is a good soldier. He goes on and on and on, and he quotes lots of things. Well, I'd like to quote something from the media. It's breaking news, and perhaps he'd like to check his phone about a breaking news right now of a Liberal MP that secretly advised a Chinese diplomat in 2021 to delay the freeing of the two Michaels. I would like to ask this honourable colleague for a comment onto that.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, I'm sitting here, Mr. Speaker. I've been speaking for the last 15 minutes, not including interruptions. I'm unaware of the breaking news that this member is referencing. I'm looking forward to look into it. But we see, once again here, Mr. Speaker, the exact same rhetoric that comes from Conservatives, the exact same thing that the member from Red Deer Lacombe was trying to do when he, walking through an airport, looking like the hero on his way back to Ottawa, was saying, I'm on my way to Ottawa to fight for you and deal with the agents of Beijing. Come on. That's not what this place is supposed to be about, Mr. Speaker. The rhetoric that comes from Conservatives, including that last question, is intentionally trying to mislead Canadians, and I find it extremely unfortunate.
Questions and comments?
There's confidential information shared there. Knowing what you know from the NSICOP report, are you comfortable heading in there that that information won't end up in the wrong hands?
Comfortable working with my colleagues, but I'm also bound by the Security of Information and Intelligence Act. I have a responsibility as the chair, and so do all members of the committee, to remain confidential. This data, this information is classified. Most of this review is predicated on highly classified information.
If you are to reveal the information, you can go to jail.
I could be prosecuted.
Mr. LeBlanc has said that some of the intelligence that he interprets differently, that he thinks that some of the intelligence that you did. Are you confident in?
You'd have to ask him. I'm not sure what he means. You have to ask him.
Monsieur Maguetti, juste sur C70, cette espèce d'urgence.
Le temps nécessaire.
We have to find a way that we can start getting answers. It was the New Democrats that were the first party, our leader, to call for a public inquiry. And tonight, we are the ones leading this discussion. And we need this tonight, Madam Speaker, because we are in a situation where we've just got these allegations that I think are explosive, that a sitting member of Parliament may have advised a senior Chinese official over the illegal detention, the hostage-taking of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavar, the ones we know as the two Michaels. And that hostage-taking of those two men was a real line that was crossed, I think, in this new century in terms of the breakdown of international order and international law. And it was incumbent upon all of us, regardless of party, to put the interests of those men and their family first. Now, I know the member in question who's been accused. I've sat with him on committee, and I am not here to say whether or not those allegations are true. But I'm saying these allegations are so explosive that the Prime Minister must respond. And one of the ways the Prime Minister must respond now is by following the New Democrat call for a public inquiry to restore confidence.
John Report.
My family came to Canada for freedom. I have had the privilege of being elected to this House, and I believe I have served honorably and pledge to continue to serve honorably and fulfill my oath of office. I will continue to serve the residents of Don Valley North as an independent member of this House. I'm taking this extraordinary step because sitting the government caucus is a privilege, and my presence there may be seen by some as a conflict of duty and the wrong place to be as an independent investigation pursues the facts in this matter. I will be sitting as an independent so that business of government and indeed the business of Parliament is not interrupted as I work to clear my name and the truth is presented to Parliament and to Canadian people. I am a proud Liberal, and I am proud of the work our government does day in and day out to serve the people of Canada. I also don't want to distract from that important work. Before concluding, I want to assure Mr. Michael Spavar and Mr. Michael Kovrig and their families that I did nothing to cause them any harm. Like everyone in this House, I worked hard and advocated for their interest as a parliamentarian. The allegations made against me are as false as the ones made against you. To my constituents, I will continue to work on your behalf as your Member of Parliament. To my staff, I thank you. I know the days ahead will be difficult, but I will be there to support you as we continue to serve the people of Down Valley North. To my family, and in particular, my parents, who brought us here to Canada, to my wife, Sophie, and my kids, I love you. I thank you for all the support and love you gave me. The truth will protect us. Our honor and our family will get through this together. Sorry about that. Thank you, Speaker.
I want to thank the member for his statement to assure him that the House will be making the appropriate changes to the seating plan.
Genre Report.
Take a quick breather here for a few moments before we go back to cues and comments.
As your Member of Parliament. To my staff, I thank you. I know the days ahead will be difficult, but I will be there to support you as we continue to serve the people of Down Valley North.
Okay, let's get back to the orders of the day.